Please keep in mind that all footage was taken during the first phase of the development branch. That means that the cost of certain things and maybe even the materials to make them might change when we get to 1.0. What I don't expect is for the core game mechanics to change very much before we see full release. To make small gauge railway tracks, we need construction materials and a hammer. We press a B to open the build menu, and in the foundation category we can see that there are three types of small gauge railway tracks. There is the normal one that is used for making railways on normal ground. There is the bi-arc that is used for special bends, and there is the foundation type that is meant to be built on foundations. To make a bit of railway, we go into the build menus, select the type of small gauge railway we want, for instance the normal one. If we do that, we get the blueprint of the small gauge railway track under our mouse cursor. If we hold down the right mouse button, we can change the starting orientation of the bit of railway track. If we are happy with the starting orientation, we can left click and drag out the bit of railway track, and we can see that the rail will arc between our beginning point and our end point. And if we go too far, we get an error because the structure is too long. So this is the maximum length of a rail we can make. If we select the bi-arc small gauge railway track, we can see that it starts the same. We get the blueprint under our mouse cursor. If we hold down the right mouse button, that will change the starting orientation of the railway track. If we're happy with that, we can click and start dragging out the rest of the railway. And now if we hold down the right mouse button, we can also change the orientation of the railway track at the end of our track piece. This is used to bend around objects and buildings, or to try to make a nice connection to an already existing bit of railway track. We can elevate railway tracks when we are building them. For that, we press a B to open the build menu, go to the foundations category and select a small gauge railway track. We start placing it, and with the blueprint out, we scroll up and down. We can change how high the endpoint of the railway will be. If we try to build a normal railway track on foundation, it says surface not suitable. The same will happen with the bi-arc track. It cannot be built on foundations. To build a small gauge railway track on foundations, we need the foundation type. You select the foundation type, set the starting orientation by holding down the right mouse button. If we are happy with that, we left click. That will start dragging out the new bit of rails, and we can see that we cannot end our piece of track on the road. But if we go towards the existing line that is already there, we can see that it snaps to it. If we don't want it to snap, we can hold down the shift key and go around. Unfortunately, we can't place it here. So let's connect it up to our already existing rail. Once we are happy with how it is oriented, we left click. That will place the blueprint. We walk up to it and we start hammering in the construction materials. As soon as we finish building, we can see that at the place where the old and new railway meet, that we got a switch to switch tracks. The way to switch tracks is to walk up to the switch and just press E. The small gauge locomotive and minecarts are made in the light vehicle assembly station. We come to the light vehicle assembly station and press E to open up its menu. We can see that in the production panel are the BMS Mineseeker, the BMS Rail Truck, and the BMS Line Runner. If we hover over each of them, we can see the price of each of them. So for the BMS Mineseeker, we need 125 construction materials, 10 assembly materials 1, and 20 assembly materials 2. To make construction materials, we need a materials factory. The standard recipe of a materials factory is turning 20 salvage into 1 construction material, and then there are different upgrades. The forge upgrades allows you to turn 20 salvage, 180 coal cokes into 1 assembly material 1. And the other recipe you get with the forge upgrade is turning 20 salvage and 150 liters of petrol into assembly materials 2. So to make ourselves a small gauge locomotive, we need salvage, coal coke, and petrol. Coal coke is made in the coal refinery. If we come to the coal refinery and we press E to open it, we can see that 200 coal will be turned into 180 coal coke. Petrol is made in the oil refinery. If we come to the oil refinery and we press E to open it, we can see that it turns 150 liters of oil into 150 liters of petrol in the standard recipe. When we have all the materials ready to make our small gauge locomotive, that is 125 construction materials, 10 assembly material type 1 and 20 assembly materials type 2, we can transport them to our light vehicle assembly station. So we start gathering up our materials. We make sure that we have 125 construction materials. We need 10 assembly material type 2. And since these are large items, they will take up 1 slot in our truck, so we will have to do a second haul. Then we drive up to the light vehicle assembly station. We right click on one of the materials in our truck, and in the drop down menu select the submit all to stockpile. That will fill the stockpile with these materials. Now that all the necessary materials are in the light vehicle assembly station, we make sure that the light vehicle assembly station is powered. We need 2 megawatts of power, and we have 2 megawatts of power currently, so we can start production. To start production, we come to the production panel and we click the BMS Mineseeker, and as we can see, that will start the production of the small gauge locomotive. If we open the light vehicle assembly station, we can track the progress of the assembly of the small gauge locomotive. During the assembly of the locomotive, the light vehicle assembly station will draw the necessary materials one by one from the stockpile, so be wary that you don't take out the necessary materials, otherwise the light vehicle assembly station can't finish the assembly. Another thing to keep in mind is to make sure that the light vehicle assembly station stays powered throughout the process. Once the locomotive is assembled, we need to package it to get it onto our track. So we come to our locomotive, we press E to open the locomotive, we come to the actions panel and hit the package button. This will package the locomotive. We then come to our crane, hop into the crane, and with the right mouse button we aim the crane at the locomotive, packaged locomotive. We left click to pick it up. Underneath the mouse cursor we can see the connection icon. If we now left click, we can deposit our locomotive on the rails. A locomotive doesn't run on air, it needs coal to be able to move, so we bring a stack of coal to our locomotive. We press E to open the inventory of our locomotive, and we shift click on our coal stack. That will move it into the locomotive. We then press Q to mount our locomotive, and if we hold a W, we start moving forwards. And if you press the S key, you reverse. As we can see in the top left, the fuel seems to go very fast. That is not the case. It is a single coal that is being burned, and that is what the bar is indicating. If you come to a fork in the rails that is not set the right way, we can see that it says is blocked by an inactive switch. We have to hop out, come to the switch, and if we're close to it, it says in the bottom left, press E to set track switch to turnout. So we press E. That will change our switch, and if we now hop into our locomotive, we can keep moving. If you're sure there are no obstacles on the rails ahead, you can always go to auto drive, and the way to do that is to press enter to open chat, hit Ctrl plus W, and then hit enter again, and this tricks the game into thinking that you're pushing down the W key constantly. When we have all the materials, we need to assemble a small gauge mining cart for raw resources in the stockpile of the light vehicle assembly station. We come to the production panel and we click the icon of the small gauge raw resource mining cart. If we click that, it will start assembling mining cart. This will take some time. If we look in the progress bar, we can see that the progress bar will slowly move, and each step of the way it will retrieve items from the stockpile of the light vehicle assembly station. When the minecart is ready, we have to package it so we can pick it up with the crane and transport it. So we come to the back of the mining cart where the little plateau is. That is where the interaction point with the minecart is. We press E, we get the actions panel, and we hit the package button. That will make it so that we are packaging the small mining cart. Once it is packaged, we hop into our crane by pressing Q. Use right click to aim at our mining cart. If it connects, we left click. We hold the right mouse button to aim our crane, and once we are close to the small gauge rail, we can see that we get the connection icon. If we then left click, this will drop the mining cart and it will put it on the rails. So we back it up till we're close to the mining cart. We stand between the locomotive and the mining cart. We press Shift E, and in the interaction menu, we can see that there is an option to couple rail cars. If we now click that, we can see that the locomotive and the rail cart are connected by a tiny chain. And we now hop into the locomotive and we start driving. We can see that we are taking the mining cart with us. If you want to separate the cart from the locomotive or carts from each other, you need a wrench. Make sure that the wrench is in your equipment. It goes into the third slot. Press 1 to equip it. Press C to crouch, and crouch between the cart and the locomotive. Left click, and that will start decoupling the rail cars. Once the animation is done, we can stand up, hop into our locomotive, and if we drive away, we can see that the minecart is not connected anymore. We have all the materials needed to make a BMS line runner in the stockpile of the light vehicle assembly station. We go to the production panel and we click on the icon for the BMS line runner. This will start the assembly of the BMS line runner. This will take some time. If we look in the progress bar, we can see that the progress bar will slowly move, and each step of the way it will retrieve items from the stockpile of the light vehicle assembly station. When the minecart is ready, we have to package it so we can pick it up with the crane and transport it. So we come to the back of the mining cart where the little plateau is. That is where the interaction point with the minecart is. We press E, we get the actions panel, and we hit the package button. That will make it so that we are packaging the small mining cart. Once it is packaged, we hop into our crane by pressing Q. Use right click to aim at our mining cart. If it connects, we left click. We drive back our train so it is close to the new cart. We hop out of the locomotive. We stand between the two carts and hit Shift E. That will give us the interaction menu, and we can see there is a couple rail cars. If we click that, both carts will be connected to each other. We then can hop into the locomotive and drive off. When we come close to a production building, we can see in the bottom left that we can press E to use the coal refinery. That is the building on the left. If we do that, we get the menu for the coal refinery with on the left side the inventory of the coal refinery itself, and in the bottom left all the inventories of my small gauge train. That includes the locomotive, the raw resource card, and the flatbed card. With the menu open, if we have raw resources that need to go into the building, we can go to the raw resource card and right click on the raw resources in the resource card and hit submit all to stockpile, and that will pull the entire card empty into the stockpile. We can also do the reverse by shift clicking on the coal icon in the stockpile of the coal refinery, and that will retrieve the raw resources into the currently selected minecart. If we try to do the same thing with the flatbed cart and we shift click, it says that we can't store that item type. Since we are close to the materials factory as well, if we press Shift E, we can open the materials factory. And with the materials factory, we can do the same thing. If we come to our flatbed cart, we can retrieve the construction materials. If we go either right click and retrieve or retrieve multiple, or shift click, it will start assembling it into our flatbed cart. If we want to store any of these items in the stockpile of the materials factory, we right click on the materials in the inventory of the flatbed cart and hit submit all to stockpile, and that will put them inside the materials factory.